We'll do a bunch of stuff. I love that tune.
Good evening and welcome to Field Talk. I am the Field, also known as Field of Bears. Sorry for being a couple of minutes late. I'm a professional guy who does professional things like start late because I was hungry. Sue me. Or please don't sue me. Never mind. Shut up. Don't think about it. So before we get started, hello to B. West, Roy, Kick Ya, Cowboy Bear, and Steve. Welcome, welcome. So I am going to take you on just a little bit of a journey of sorts, I think. Yes. So I would like to take you on this journey, as it were, and talk about purity spirals. And I'll be using sort of left-leaning ideology as a jumping-off point for that. And then we'll talk about it in other groups a little bit, but I only bothered to go collect some articles for the left-wing kind of deal of it. So, what do I mean by a purity spiral to start out with? I'm talking about the sort of holier-than-thou attitude that people like to accuse religious people of having. And, well, sometimes the accusation is accurate. I'll grant you that. But oftentimes, not so much. And actually, maybe it is to do with religion. And I guess it depends on the religion that you have, because I've seen some people try and brag about how humble they are, when obviously I am the most humble man on the planet, and all of you can just deal with that. Ouch, hold on. That's better. I had a crick in my spine. That's my kettle being ready for tea. But it can wait for just a second. The thing that I'm talking about is people will attempt to display that they are better than you or each other in some way in accordance with their ideology. You see it with certain kinds of Christians going, oh, well, I don't even drink, and things like that. Things like that. But there's another religion out there. It's a bit popular on the left wing side. I call it intersectionality. And a couple of the tenets of intersectionality, one of them is the female is holy and inviolable. And you see here that creepy Uncle Joe's presidential aspirations might be dead in the water due to the fact that he's got a pretty nasty habit of inappropriate touching and kissing. And you can go on YouTube and compilations of him being creepy, not only with women, but with little girls as well. It's really disturbing and not very fun to look into, but I suppose if you must. And apart from the female being inviolable, we saw that this is very super true with Harvey Weinstein, powerful Democratic donor, being kicked out of the Cool Kids Club and, well, actually being prosecuted for his misdeeds. And we see this on college campuses where the mere accusation of sexual impropriety, whether it's rape or just, well, I regret it, so now it's bad. Hello, Jamie, the Big Rican Bear. Welcome all. And so that's a real problem. Now, another thing is their other sacred tenet is white is bad. Now, this is from Slate. Now, you see that in a diverse candidate field, how is Pete Buttigieg's sexuality factoring into his appeal? Now, for those of you who don't know, this Pete Buttigieg guy is a gay guy, a homosexual, and that is a very big deal in the religion of intersectionality. It gives you some good boy points, I guess. However, he is white, and that takes away a lot of good boy points. And you can look it up, and Slate isn't the only one out this, but they have a real problem with him being white. Oh, I forgot to grab it. Yeah, Beto ORourke is an interesting one. I forgot to grab an article for it. Sorry, but let me just talk a little bit about Beto ORourke. He's Irish. His first name is actually Robert, I think. So that's a bit of a problem for him. So he pretends like he's Hispanic. Thank you, Newsweek. He pretends like he's Hispanic and calls himself Beto instead. And they're having a bit of an issue having discovered that he's actually a white man instead of a Hispanic gentleman. And so he's in a bit of hot water at the moment. And this is the same problem with, according to Newsweek, is his campaign was too white and male. Now, this is from way back. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's way back in February. But still, I think it was the super delegates that killed Bernie's campaign, and not the fact that he's white and male. But the identitarian left is currently rejecting him because he is, too white and too male. So it's a bit of a problem for him, I think. And it's the strangest thing is that they're deciding on their presidential candidates with these criteria. But it's not just that, folks. It's not just that. My friends, my pals, my viewers who don't know me at all. It's also their dating preferences. Now, this Christopher Rivas is a blatant racist. He broke up with her because she's white. When it comes to dating, I'd rather not think about race, but that's being hard to avoid. Well, that's because you're a racist, Christopher. And it's definitely because she's white. Now, I've read this article before. You can read it if you want. It's the New York Times, paper of record, of course, noted employer of virulent racists. But they've hired him, that's a different racist, and he's sitting here talking about how much he hates white women. So it's a bit kind of wild. They're bringing this religion into their dating, and I understand. I understand not wanting to. And you remember this? It's not just the dudes. From Huffington Post, noted conservative blog. Huh. I'm an Asian woman engaged to a white man, and honestly, I'm struggling with that. This is, for those of you who don't know, it's another one. It's pretty bad. Temple has a pretty good video on it, and it's not so great. It's not so great, I think. There we go. Yeah, I would prefer to not be talking about race at all, but the other side seems to be very interested in it. And it's their religion, and basically, if you are outside of their good categories, then you're bad. And their good categories are women, homosexual, and non-white. And the more those categories can intersect, the better. Oh, yeah, and there's also the transsexual category. And when someone goes outside of that or says something that is not in perfect lockstep with how wonderful these sacred categories are, then they enter into what's called a purity spiral, and it's the person who is too impure will be ritually humiliated in front of their peers, and in order to get back in the good graces of the intersectional priests, they will have to grovel before them and talk about how they're sorry for being white, male, cis, whatever. All those very bad, awful things, and how they can just never understand the suffering that other groups have gone through all of history and all of that. And as amusing as it can be to watch these spirals go on, and a lot of people call it the left eating themselves, I would like to remind you that this is not a phenomena unique to them. The purity spiral can exist in any group. If you define your group by some kind of axiom, then the way you adhere to that axiom will become a sort of status symbol, and people will eventually start to signal how well they conform to this ideal. I am more humble than you. I'm the most humble guy around. We've seen this kind of thing before, haven't we? I'm so not racist, or in this. Of course, it's virtue signaling, and it exists everywhere. In fact, it can exist on the right. Now, I am a connoisseur of helicopter jokes, as you might say, and I never get tired of them. They do amuse me so, but they can be seen as a virtue signal. The more you're seen to dislike socialism, the better conservative you are. Now, there's a problem where I am also not so keen on the whole war thing, and that's where I get in trouble with a lot of conservative people for not being conservative enough, not being a pure right winger, because I am against a drone program or whatever. I can argue my way around these issues fairly well, but you find it on the other side too, especially when you start touching on on the sacred cows of the right, law and order. Now, you guys in my audience, you're pretty great. And when I suggest ending the drug war and instead moving to a treatment model for addicts and for non-addict recreational people, leave them alone, you go, yeah, that makes sense. But there are right-wing people who go completely ballistic on me. They start yelling at me, no, lock them up, they're criminals, and yada, yada, yada. But the thing is if they do crimes outside of drugs, yeah, put them in jail for the crimes, obviously. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that if someone wants to destroy their own body, then, yeah, well, you can't tell them no, can you? That doesn't make any sense. You'd be awfully irritated with me if I took away your cigarettes. So why are you taking away other people's cigarettes? Your drug is okay, I guess, because the government says so. I thought you were supposed to be liberty-minded. But again, it's not you guys. It's other conservatives. Don't worry, you guys are the cool ones. We run into problems like this in religious groups as well. I saw this a lot in Mormonism. People boasting about their humility, talking about how they've done the various sacraments and how they're so much better at various temple works and all that very interesting stuff, with a smile plastered across their face, of course. And one thing about Mormonism that they do have on the intersectionals is, if someone messes up, they don't have to grovel. They just ask forgiveness, and normally they get it. But the theology of Mormonism is a little bit strange, so the forgiveness thing can get a little bit strange and weird. But outside of Mormonism, say in an evangelical sort of Quaker-based church, yeah, the thing that is required is improvement. And that's it. Weird, isn't it? It actually works. Rather than rooting somebody's life permanently or facing them to humiliate themselves.